If you live in Ukraine, congratulations. You are going to receive $65 billion. Yes, the United States government handing over $65 billion to Ukraine. If you live in California, however, you'll receive $770 thanks to the wildfires. $770. So brain dead President Biden basically just read off a prepared script about the aid that's coming from the Biden administration into California. And he said, quote, people impacted by these fires are going to receive a one-time payment of $770. I'm not making this up. Watch.
I want to be clear. We're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out.
Great.
That will get you about 1.5 night stay at a hotel in Los Angeles.
If there's any left.
Yeah, like if my house burnt down, I'm currently, like where I'm sitting right now within 3 feet of me is, I mean, I've got PCs and laptops and all that stuff. Like I've got more than $770 within 2 feet of me.
You cannot replace your current affairs with $700.
And also,
glad you can
just like North Carolina, it's like you got to register for it. You're talking about people that have no internet, who have no infrastructure right now, that have to try to find a way to go register for this. If they have a car to even get somewhere to do it in person, like it's a joke. They know that people aren't going to be able to get there or do it.
Right. They're like, mailing address. The mailbox is burned down.
Yeah, I don't have a
Just
mailing
drop it
address.
on the front lawn.
Where are you going to send this check to, by the way? Is it going to be a direct deposit? Oh, okay. So after he made this announcement, reporters tried to get answers, but of course he sat there like he was crapping his pants and not answering any questions, just kind of like smiling and looking around as reporters were throwing all sorts of questions at him. Watch this.
That's enough of that. That's like a meme for senioritis. Literally senioritis.
Senioritis started when he became president. I mean,
he's like, why are you yelling at me?
Yeah, I just gave him $770. Like, what didn't you understand about that? Like,
Is it January 21st yet?
I gotta go take a nap. But don't worry though, Kamala Harris was right there to also deal with this and to level some answers and to I think Kamala, she just provided a lot of comfort for what people are going through right now.
And so it's critically important that to the extent you can find anything that gives you an ability to be patient in this extremely dangerous and unprecedented crisis, that you do.
Yeah.
Hey, Californians.
Thank you.
She could be your next governor. Would that bring you comfort? Because polls are showing that she may want that job. There you go. That person has some answers. What's her answer? Find some patience.
Find some patience. Just have patience. You lost everything.
Inside of you, somewhere.
Let's pause for a second, though, and just think about this. $770. That's what people in California who've lost everything, homes, possessions, some cases, loved ones, are supposed to survive on. Meanwhile, billions are being shoveled out the door to fuel a war thousands of miles away, a proxy war run by the CIA. How is this acceptable? $65 billion going to the most corrupt government in Europe so that they can carry out a proxy war. An entire generation of young Ukrainians are all killed as a result of it. Thanks, CIA. Just for context here, we learned this week that the administration is gearing up to ship yet another $1 billion check overseas to Ukraine, adding to the $65 billion that we've already sent. By the way, that $65 billion number, that's the number we know about. Estimates are it's likely well over $100 billion because we've been shoveling them money since 2014 after the CIA-backed coup in Kiev and installed our puppet government there. So we've been, I think it's a lot more than $65 billion. I mean, I'll ask you guys in the chat room right now. Like, do you guys think it's more than 65 billion or less than 65 billion? Or just right around that 65 billion. Let me know in the comments. I'd be curious about that. So far on this Tuesday, California's wildfires have wiped out 10,000 homes and counting and structures. Families are scrambling right now for shelter, struggling to figure out where their next meal will come from, and wondering how they're ever going to rebuild their lives. These are Americans living through a disaster of unimaginable proportions. And the government's grand solution, a one-time pittance that won't even cover like a week's rent or food. It's unbelievable. By the way, why did North Carolinians only get $750? So the wildfire victims get $770. I guess like accounting for inflation since Hurricane Helene hit and tore through Tennessee and North Carolina and Georgia and Florida.
Blue state surtax.
I guess. Why add $20?
You had people out in California and everything, like when North Carolina happened, saying, it's not a big deal. They're all, it's a red state anyway, blah, blah, blah. This being a blue state, I think they're going to realize, maybe we shouldn't have these Democrats in power because, Trump said a long time ago to Gavin Newsom, you need to get prepared, prepare the ground, rake and get all the dead leaves and trees up off the ground. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So hopefully this is we may see California turn red after this.
Maybe. We saw Megyn Kelly yesterday posted sort of an anecdotal story, but she was talking about a friend of hers who she says is woke. She lives in this area. And she said, all of my friends who are woke Democrats are now voting Republican. They're sick of it. They're over it. That's anecdotal, of course, but who knows? Anyway, this is a slap.
But look at Gavin Newsom's priorities right now. He has just earmarked $50 billion to Trump-proof California, meaning he is setting aside money to litigate against the federal
or million.
50 billion. Let me look. 50 million. I apologize. 50 million. So that's 25 million just to launch litigation against the federal government of your taxpayer money, but you don't get water out of the fire hydrants.
No, they were literally in a special session. So California legislature sitting in a special session while their state, the entire cities are burning up. And they were literally having a special session on how to deal with Trump.
Right.
That's their priority?
For the hypothetical deportations, right? They're saying, how do we protect illegal immigrants who are setting fires? How do we now make sure that we are ready to litigate against the federal government?
It's a slap in the face.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
So this message from Washington is clear. Americans come second. Your suffering is an afterthought. Billions for Ukraine, billions for Israel, a country, by the way, that has a space force. Yeah, Israel has a space program and a budget surplus. So Israel has more money in the bank. We have a massive $35 trillion deficit. Israel's doing just fine. And we can send them billions of dollars. But you get crumbs for Californians. You get crumbs for the people of Maui. You get crumbs for North Carolinians and those who live in Tennessee and Florida and Georgia. Crumbs. These people don't give a rat's behind about you. Can you imagine for a second if California was a liberal state? Oh, wait. Like, what more do you need to do? How much ass kissing did liberals need to do here in order to get some sort of, care at all from the Biden administration? I mean, literally, you could argue that the people that live in Southern California, maybe Berkeley, are like the Kamala Harris supporters, right? They are the ones. They are like the textbook liberals who supported Biden and supported Kamala Harris. What more ass kissing do you need to do than get a little help from the guy that you elected? Mm-hmm. That's it. These are the people. Go ahead, Phil.
What kind of psychological warfare is this that it's like, okay, even with like the stimulus checks and everything, it's like it's never over $1,000. It's like we got to keep it under $1,000 because it's just enough to make them so that they're happy they can buy stuff, but not enough to really help them.
Enrich them.
Right,
Yeah.
but let's review the last 4 years of the Biden administration when illegal immigrants got debit cards worth upwards of between $1,000 and $10,000 at a time. For what? For just arriving, right? And so you have to put this in context to how taxpayer money is being used for who.
Couple of comments here. I like this. Television shows in our chat says, Redacted, don't forget about the $43 million per week to the Taliban in Afghanistan that we're still paying. Yeah, we just did a whole segment interview last week on this exact subject. Tim Burchett, who's put that forward to stop those payments. And Comic Andy's in our chat says Boston Tea Party time. And you know, it's funny. I was talking with Grim earlier. Grim, who does all of our graphics here. He's a U.S. military veteran, by the way. He said, I can't believe, he said, what a kick in the nuts this is. He's like, I can't believe that we haven't had sort of like a French Revolution moment here in the United States, you know, and you're saying like Boston Tea Party time. Like, how much longer are Americans going to take this from these leaders?
It's the fluoride.
They care more. Maybe they care more about Ukraine than they do Americans.
I just wonder how we can convince Putin to invade California so they can get money.
So we can get help from them.
If he can invade LA, we'll write him a check right now. Here you go, $20 billion.
Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
We're to the rescue. We're going to rebuild California from Putin's aggression.
Yeah.
Instead, it's liberal policy aggression. So that's that big part of the story. Side note story on something we're working on here and putting these pieces together. Something big appears to be happening at U.S. airports, according to friend of the show, journalist Ryan Mata. Now, we know that undocumented illegal immigrants are being flown into the United States under the command of the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State under Antony Blinken and Alejandro Mayorkas. We've documented that many, many times here on the show. But something appears to be ramping up, and a number of sources have come forward to make this point to Ryan. And I just we're piecing some of this together here, but I want to share some of this out in the open in case there's some sort of a false flag event or something that's about to unfold here. So here is what a source has now spilling the beans on what's happening at Los Angeles International Airport. There may or may not be large commercial charter flights full of undocumented, unregistered individuals from a certain continent originating from Nogales International Airport. Okay, where are they coming from? OLS and landing at Los Angeles International Airport. They're exiting through the PS LAX, the private suite terminal at Los Angeles International Airport, and they're coming en masse. The Rosendin Company and SASCO are the commercial electrical contractors responsible for turning off the CCTVs to hide these flights and to hide them when they get out of the flights. And there are general blackouts when these individuals touch down and they get bussed out of the LAX terminal. Now, they're being set loose on the already devastated population in Los Angeles. People need to evacuate ASAP. LAPD is not responding to this stuff. Don't ask how I know this. Now, multiple other sources have now come forward to confirm this. It's happening not just at LAX, but Miami International Airport and other places. What is happening a week before President Trump takes office? Not exactly sure. They, of course, delete these flight histories. So when you go to try to find these registries, you won't find them. They hide these flights, especially if they're government flights. So if you're looking for them, you're not going to find them in the logs, of course. Monkey Works, of course, military veteran who spent more than 30 years in aerospace and defense, does a great job tracking these flights. You guys know Monkey Works pretty well. He's been tracking these flights for years under the Biden administration. He says they are still flying in about 70,000 illegals per month into the United States. And he tracks this stuff every day. Watch.
197. So just shy of 200. But keep in mind, I've stripped out close to, well over 150, probably close to 160 trainers out of that equation. So it's cleared the skies up a little bit. Got a lot of air refuelers up. And
so he talks not about just the reconnaissance flight, also talks about the Omni flights, of course, which are government flights. So those are off the book. So if you're trying to track all of this, where these flights are coming from, why they're coming in right now, and why a number of sources are coming forward in the few days, of course, before President Trump's inauguration, you need to, I don't know, I think we need to be paying attention to this. So we're going to continue to follow that part of the story, but I wanted to bring it to you as we continue to move forward on this.
All right. Well, President-elect Trump says that he's going to focus on revenue from abroad instead of taxing U.S. citizens. So this is, in the words of Trump, this is bigly. Here is the announcement that he made on his Truth Social account. He says, for far too long, we've relied on taxing our great people using the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Through soft and pathetically weak trade agreements, the American economy has delivered growth and prosperity to the world while taxing ourselves. It's time for that to change. So he's announcing the External Revenue Service to collect our tariffs, duties, and revenue that come from foreign foreign sources, and that will be born on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2025. So just think about it. What he wants is for the American economy to make money by doing business abroad instead of relying on breaking the backs of its own citizens. Now, this is currently how it works. The average American pays the federal and state government the equivalent of money that they make between January and May of any given calendar year. And in fact, the IRS even admits it on their own website. They call it Tax Freedom Day. You can find this on IRS.gov. It's the number of days that an American has to work to earn enough money to pay federal, state, and local taxes. In most states, you see, the redder it is, the longer you have to work in order to pay your taxes. And then you don't keep anything until after that day. So take a look at this for yourself. Zoom in on it later. Find it on IRS.gov. If you live in New York State, you have to work the longest until May 14th before you keep a dime. The states with the earliest that you can stop working for the government are Louisiana, April 4th. They have it the best, I guess. Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, April 5th. So what if that were not the case? What if you could pay less because our government is doing business abroad and funding itself that way, doing business with the world? Is this a pipe dream, do you think, or could it actually work? Well, possibly it could decrease our U.S. deficit, but only if we stop actually overspending, because the IRS does not have a collection problem. The IRS have an outlay problem. We've discussed this before. Our debt comes from overspending, not under collecting. That's a misnomer. But of course, I want to point this out because this is relevant. Today, as I'm researching this story, I realized that the IRS also have a competency problem as well. From personal experience, here's a letter that Clayton and I received in the mail today. This is, we're not in trouble. Don't worry. We had a friendly exchange from our 2022 filings because we lived abroad and we missed one 1099. So they're saying you actually owe a little bit more based on this 1099. But I don't dispute the amount. I dispute the fact that they've given me a deadline of November 25th, 2024, but they didn't write the letter until December 30th. So how can I go back and respond to the letter in arrears? I don't have a time machine. This speaks to a basic competency, wouldn't you say, of the IRS? And it's just so frustrating because we pay them our tax dollars to collect from us 5 months of our paycheck out of the year, and they're not even doing a good job of it. They don't even have a base. They don't know how to use a calendar.
That's so disgusting. I mean, I just think about when we cut that check every quarter for our taxes. I mean, and that's a lot of money that we pay the government.
To buy a drone.
I mean, we literally freaking pay. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then to think that in split seconds, milliseconds, that money is sent to Ukraine or it's sent to go off and kill somebody in Syria or something. Like, it's unbelievable to me. Like, and they have the audacity to send us a letter like that.
It's just, I don't know what to do with that. I'm fine to pay the amount. I'm an American. I owe it. This is my current social contract. But the idea that they can't even use a calendar, it's...
You can watch my whole interview with a former IRS agent who was in charge of going after people who didn't pay their IRS tax bills. And he actually discovered that it's unconstitutional to pay income tax. He was driving one day on his way to a frickin' to deal with a client who ended up having this issue and was, wasn't paying their taxes or something. And he's listening to the radio and he hears a radio show about how income taxes are illegal.
Right.
And it's unconstitutional.
Yes, you should absolutely look into
Watch that whole interview that I did.
But what we're looking at going forward is whether or not a Trump administration would actually put competent people and stop breaking our backs to wage war abroad. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish my thought, but that's marriage. So anyway, I was just going to say, go seek out that interview because, it's disgusting. And he says you don't have to do it. And he teaches people how not to do it because, there's no precedent for it. So anyway, go seek out that interview. Do you ever have a feeling you're being surveilled and hesitate to share things of interest via text message or email with your friends and loved ones? Well, recently, outspoken parents at a PTA meeting and Catholic Americans have been labeled as domestic terrorists by the FBI. These types of labels can be used to allow the U.S. government to surveil its own citizens and others who live abroad without any legal due process. Fortunately, the founders of Bunker have created an app to uphold people's rights. Bunker is not beholden to any third-party corporation, investor, or government. Bunker deeply believes that privacy is a human right and that everyone on Earth deserves bank-level security. Bunker provides you protection from state and corporate surveillance, as well as cyber criminals. It includes a completely secure and private messenger, a robust password manager, secure cloud storage, and files for your documents. Bunker is built to uphold the rights of people and protect them from cyber crimes. Download Bunker from the App Store or the Google Play Store today. Use the offer code REDACTED to receive your first year for free. So here's an interesting move. DJI, the makers of the world's largest civilian drone maker, they make these. This is a DJI drone right here, and a Chinese company, just announced a pretty big change for U.S. drone users. Starting this week, they're swapping out their own geofencing system for official FAA data. In plain English, what that means is DJI drones will now follow the FAA's no-fly zones instead of the company's old built-in restrictions. Why is this happening right now? Right before Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Just a few days before President Trump arrives in Washington, D.C. and puts his hand on the Bible. Okay, this change rolled out yesterday, and the timing is kind of eyebrow-raising, wouldn't you say? It's very odd that this is happening just a week before Trump's inauguration. All of the chatter about drones flying over cities, flying over Bedminster. It's very interesting. Military bases. Plus, it's hard not to see that this is a response to all that heat that Chinese companies like TikTok have been getting lately. DJI explained, of course, remember, TikTok is a Chinese company. It's owned by ByteDance, located in Beijing, right? So DJI explained that the update on their blog, Viewpoints, here's the gist. Instead of outright blocking flights in certain areas, the updated system will mark these spots as, quote, enhanced warning zones, meaning they'll alert you, but now it's on you to come back. Now it's on you to turn around and get out of that zone. Before, DJI would send your drone back home. You couldn't fly into those areas. It would restrict you from doing anything like that. In fact, I found out the hard way when I launched. Here's some video that I filmed flying into some fireworks on New Year's Eve. And this is me filming this. My drone goes up, flies towards the fireworks. And as I got close to that zone, guess what? Drone headed home. Restricted zone. And it flew me right back home. I couldn't fly through those fireworks. And it returned to sender. That's exactly how it usually happens. Have anything to do with this TikTok ban, though? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Does it have any?
If it had anything to do with, because the FAA sharing information with a Chinese company, I wonder which side of that falls on, in the TikTok, because they don't want a Chinese company having American information. So if the FAA was sharing and they no longer are, or if now this Chinese company wants that FAA information and they're going to get it. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that could be. Or that they're sort of bending the knee right now to the FAA so that the U.S. government gets to say where and when people can fly their drones in the United States instead of a Chinese company that's controlling these zones. I don't exactly know. I wonder if it has anything to do at all with what Tucker Carlson said just last night about all of those drones that we were seeing across the east coast of the United States and what he learned about how they were stopped. Watch.
An intel person told me that this person believed that they were in fact Chinese, and that a Chinese satellite went down, was visible to the naked eye. There were news stories about it. It evaporated, it burned up, and that this person told me that was taken down by the U.S. government. That was a command and control satellite for these drones.
Oh,
and the
wow.
belief was the Chinese government was sending the following message: we're moving on Taiwan and maybe other things.
Wow.
You can't do anything about it.
Have anything to do with that? Of course, many people posted this. This appears to be the satellite that was shot out of the sky. Isn't it kind of crazy? You can actually see Saturn right there with the powerful lens. Isn't that crazy? You can see Saturn at the top of the screen. I love that.
With its rings.
With its rings, it's so cool. But anyway, there's the presumed. This happened in December. When all of this happened, all that drone activity suddenly stopped after this Chinese satellite was taken down, according to Tucker. Really fascinating. So another drone blog pointed out how this change could be DJI's way of staying in the U.S.'s good graces, to kind of answer Philip's point here. As scrutiny on Chinese tech, of course, ramps up. Whether that's the case or not, it's a big shakeup for drone users, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But that's a common thread of drone users. It's like, you can't go near these certain airports, you can't go to these certain zones, because it automatically stops you from flying into those zones.
Yeah.
And prevents you from it. It's like hitting a wall. It's like hitting an invisible wall, and it'll return. You can't fly there. It'll return your drone back to you. So now that's all open. Now it's all on you. I don't know.
It's all on you, but then you get approached by the gendarme like Clayton did.
Yes. I was flying my drone over Point du Hoc in Normandy, because I wanted the kids to be able to see the scaling of how the U.S. Army Rangers scaled the wall on D-Day. And so I flew my drone out down into the water, right above the water, and scaled up Point du Hoc. And then the French got after me. They yelled at me about it.
Yes.
No drones.
Yeah, he says.
Oui.
No drones. So
no drones.
He's been...
I'm in trouble.
In trouble more often than not with that drone. All right. Well, Starbucks is reversing its anti-racist policy that they put in place in 2018. In 2018, you may recall this incident that Starbucks rolled out this major racism training program and had to do major PR in all of their stores after this incident.
No longer, no further. Protesters calling for justice today. After the arrests of 2 black men at this Philadelphia Starbucks on Thursday. This video, captured by a witness's cell phone, shows police talking and later handcuffing the men while they were waiting for a friend. The men wanted to use the restroom, but the manager said that per store policy, they couldn't since they didn't buy anything. When they wouldn't leave, she called police.
A group of males refused to leave.
Some witnesses say the officers overreacted.
They're just sitting there quietly, sitting on their phones, chatting, just like everyone else in Starbucks was.
Philadelphia's police commissioner says the officers didn't do anything wrong.
They followed policy. They did what they were supposed to do.
All right. Well, you may recall the video. It went viral. These men were just sitting there. They didn't buy anything. The manager asked them to leave, and then they further got arrested. After this, Starbucks even closed their stores in order to lecture all of their employees about racism. It was after 1 p.m., all stores in 2018 were shut so that they could have this anti-racist training. And they changed their policy after that, saying, okay, we will allow people to hang out in our stores, use the bathroom, whether or not they buy anything or not, because we don't want to be racist. Well, now you've lived through that, and you know what it did to Starbucks. It made their bathrooms unusable. It allowed homeless people to squat in there. It allowed people to be made uncomfortable by non-customers. That's what happens. Too many unpleasant experiences for people like this iced venti breve sitting over here next to me to work in, right? Yeah,
that's right.
That is his coffee order.
Yeah.
Venti iced breve. It could be -12 outside and he still gets an iced breve.
That's right.
So now they say that you must purchase something in order to hang out in a Starbucks. Has nothing to do with racism or classism. It is just business policy, bathrooms and lounges for customers only. A Starbucks statement called this a practical step that helps them prioritize our paying customers who want to sit and enjoy our cafes and need to use the restroom during their visit. By setting clear expectations for behavior and use of our spaces, we can create a better environment for everyone. So clearly has nothing to do with race, has everything to do with just they need to maintain their bathrooms and their lounges for their paying customers. Pretty reasonable, right? It's a return to reason.
It seems reasonable. And I know socialists that don't like this idea, but this is exactly what a business is allowed to do. They're allowed to say, "Hey, you need to pay. You need to buy something in order to use our bathrooms."
Gas stations do it all the time.
We built this store. We have employees here. We're paying for a nice experience. It's not racist if we tell you to buy something, to buy a donut or to buy a drink, to use our toilets that we pay for.
Right.
Everyone's a victim.
Yes. Well, no longer. Starbucks says we actually need to make money in order to maintain these spaces to have a business. Starbucks is also trying to get paying customers to stay a little longer. Did you notice this one, honey? By offering 1 free refill for iced or hot coffees for in-store orders.
But they've always, if you're a Starbucks card owner.
No, not anymore. Now it's for everybody. You can
everyone.
stay and you don't get a refill of
like the fancy
espresso drink, but you can get a refill of no.
Yeah.
I thought I was
refill
going to get a
of-
refill of my mocha.
No,
sorry.
No,
you're,
you two snowflakes in your Starbucks.
your
aficionados.
your caramel frappuccino. Sorry, you're not getting that. No.
Yeah.
Your smoothie.
So for those of you
I'm
who
a black cold brew guy.
are you
Black and,
I
at
can see that.
Starbucks?
I can see that.
Okay.
No, I never.
You know what I
Starbucks.
like?
I'm a Dutch Brothers guy.
Dutch Brothers.
I like Black Rock.
Dutch Brothers.
I'm like the
Dutch
manliest
Brothers.
person here.
I like
you
Dutch
guys.
Brothers. No, she gets a peppermint. She gets a
No, I don't.
A peppermint
I get a
mocha.
drip. I get a drip with cream.
She gets a
no
flat
sugar
white.
even.
She's lying. She's lying. She's busted in her lies.
I'm not. It's him that goes to Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks.
Man, I like. I was at the Toyota place today to get my truck taken care of, and I ate. I drink coffee everywhere. I drink crappy coffee all over the place.
He's indiscriminate.
Yeah, I'm indiscriminate.
He'll have a Keurig and then he'll have a $8 latte.
So I had the the styrofoam cup coffee today.
Oh.
Getting my truck fixed.
That's manly, I guess.
Yeah.
When I used to make my own pots of
tearing
coffee,
me
if there was
nuts.
some left, I would just let it sit there till the next day, pour it in a cup, and then the next morning and microwave it. I have no shame. I will drink any coffee.
But then it's super strong from sitting there steeping.
Yeah.
And so then you're sneezing with your eyes open. Yeah. All right. Well, so for those of you who may or may not want to forgive Starbucks a little bit of wokeness, I still will not, because they support the war in Gaza and also chop off young people's boobs. But you can if you want to. Go ahead.
Well, way to virtue signal.
I am virtue signaling. I don't want to go to Starbucks if they pay for gender reassignment surgery. No, thank you. You can if you want to.
Okay.